there's increasing opportunity, I think, for people to own and control their own business and their own rights. So it's easier for people to make careers in a certain way if you reach a relatively lower stage. Whereas before, if you were at a lower stage, like you might get an advance from a record label and then you wouldn't see any more money for ages, if at all, right? Whereas now it's like if you don't go out and do that deal, you can build something on your own terms. So there is that kind of like lower level opportunity to make it a job and make it a career. But realistically, like to cut through to that top level is very, very difficult. So one of the things I've always had with electronic music is that if you're a DJ, right from the offset, you can go out and make 300 quid, 500 quid a show, right? So you can make money quite quickly and it's very low cost. Then you can go on and you can make 500 grand a show, right? If you're really successful. But like if you're a band, you know, even if you're making, you know, if you arena level, you can be making no money because there's all this touring costs and there's all the bandmates to pay and whatever else, right? So it's like the money can be unbelievable in it, but I would say it's the same thing as like F2 to F1. Do you know what I mean? Really? It's like astronomical. Even being on the bottom of the, you know, the drivers run on F1, it's like you're making $500,000, right? At the top of it, you're making 50 million, right? Yeah. That's the levels. Do you know what I mean? And it's like a lot of pop artists that you might see breaking through, particularly if they only have like say 2 or 3 years at the top. If that record label is investing heavily in making that person a superstar internationally, they may never see any money. So some of the most famous people you might see might be bankrupt before you know it, because there's actually no cash being generated by them as individuals, not necessarily by the record labels being, you know, greedy or anything like that. They might have lost loads of money as well because they've invested in all the marketing. But it's just an example of like, you have to sustain a career, I think, in music to be able to make some really good money. You can't just be like, okay, cool, I've blown up, I've had one hit and then I'm going to do one tour. It's like that. Most of that is a lost leader in order to be able to try and create an even bigger, longer term career.
So how are artists now diversifying those sort of revenue streams?
Man, everything is the same now. So it's like everyone's competing in the same level. I mean, one of the challenges in music is that you used to have medium that was focused on you, radio, for instance. Radio still exists, but it's less influential. Everything's on social media. So music artists compete with influencers, sports personalities, everybody, right? And so everyone's kind of swamped into that. So if you are someone who breaks through, then you can diversify. So you can have your own brand, you can work with brands, so once you've cut through, there's a load of opportunity out there for you to make more money than you probably ever made, right? In the same way there is for an influencer, because once you've got that audience, it's monetizable. That's what people are paying to access, right? So I think that's one of the things, is that all these worlds have converged. And so the job that I have irrelevant of what space I'm in, like when I did the influencer stuff before, having gone back into music now, I'm like, yes, the job I'm doing is exactly the same as what I was doing for influencers, in terms of trying to help people figure out how they gather an audience realistically, for the most part, online, and then control that output and the conversation with that audience in order to deliver the product that those people want. And then they can be successful, basically. So yeah, that's a very interesting, different challenge to what it used to be within music, where you could kind of rely on other people's audience, like a radio stations.
It's true. Now you say it, I'm thinking about all the new artists that I hear now. I hear them first as the audio for a reel or a short. It's attached to it, and then you might go and find them and listen to other stuff. But I wouldn't hear it on the radio and think, oh, what's that? I'd hear it online.
It's nuts. So I had, through various different things, I ended up with a marketing agency that was focused in on some music and social media. And we used to go into record labels and basically have to explain how this worked when it came to like Instagram and stuff. So it was very early on in terms of the transition to social media. COVID happened and our business like exploded because there was no touring. So all the tour support budgets all kind of got shifted. People were desperate to figure out how they would communicate with people. And so that was in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, that was the catalyst to being much more digital. And it was interesting because when we used to do radio plugging, which would literally break a record, we would pay people, a tenth of what we would pay people for like one campaign or one influencer, right? And it's like the effect of that was much less than what would be happening at radio. But again, it's like this whole different challenge of how you access that audience, how you compete across this different space with all these other different people. And it's really, really interesting that, because suddenly, everybody's world changed very quickly. And imagine being an artist then, it's like, okay, cool. Like, it always goes through phases. And when I first got into it, you used to do pre-release, right? So you would know really kind of 4 weeks out what your chart position was going to be, because you'd been promoting a record and allowing people to save or pre-purchase it. When they got rid of that and did something called on air and sale, which when streaming came out, it meant you did everything at once. So you had no idea what was going to go on. That transition for artists, like a lot of people just lost their careers in it, you know? And then similarly with the social media thing, if you're an artist who relies on your music output and your relationship with radio, and then suddenly it's all about social media, it's like, it's a whole different game, right? And that's, again, the job of management. It's like, in that scenario, you might have to plug the gap for a little bit until they understand what their social media is. So you have to come up with interesting strategies to be able to acquire that audience. At the same time, you might then go look at talent who already know how to do that and then break them. Do you know what I mean? But it all kind of shifts and changes. And that was a huge difference in terms of how to manage people and what you were trying to do for those people, you know? Yeah, and a lot of managers couldn't really get their head around that, you know, and a lot of artists couldn't, and a lot of other people came through quick.
Yeah, it sounds like has social media leveled the playing field a little bit for new artists?
I think so. I think what social media has done is, particularly with TikTok, has really democratized the opportunity to be famous in some capacity, to build an audience and to make providing entertainment your job. 100%. The gatekeepers are gone. The algorithm is the gatekeeper, you know, and it's like, it becomes undeniable. It used to be relationships based. So it's like, okay, cool. Do you know the main guy at Radio 1? Yeah. And does he like it or not? Because if he said no, you're like, cool, my act is, sorry guys. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't know what we do now, right? You had to kind of win those people over. Whereas now, like, yeah, there are key players, but in reality, it's like, if you have a couple of million followers on TikTok and you're getting records away and virality, it doesn't really matter whether you get the rest of it because you're going to have a business, but it also makes it much easier to get the rest of it, obviously, because promoters are going to want to book you. Radio is more likely to support you because it's a clear indicator that something is going on for you, right? And that was very hard to convey previously without being able to own your own channels. Yeah.
So do you think for artists, it's a net positive, social media?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I know people don't like it and I know social media has its issues, but now I feel like I'm pretty well versed in social media, having run big publishing network, having, run a marketing agency, still having a marketing agency that does some innovative stuff within it, having managed influencers and now doing music management again, where so much of the effort is on social media. I do feel, in my experience of it, 100% is beneficial. It's just a challenge for people to figure out. But I also think if any artist who sits there and kind of bemoans the whole thing actually put the effort into understanding it and then again applying that self-awareness and conviction to keep trying and keep trying. If you're someone who's, struggling to get engagement or struggling to get content away, it's like, you just got to keep on going. Some of these TikTokers that are huge, it's like they had years before getting like 1,000 views on their videos and then suddenly they had one thing go viral and it's like they're massive, right? We looked after loads of those people. And it's like, again, it's the same thing we were talking about right at the start. Like if those people gave up and they were like, I've only got 1,000 views on 10 videos, like they'd be nowhere, right? And so artists need to apply the same thing, but people can get quite haughty, pretentious about the whole thing of like, well, my music's going to do the talking. It's like, man, you can make the best record in the world, but if nobody is marketed it and nobody hears it, then, what's the point?
Yeah, I think you're bang on. I think I was the same, it's so hard with this social media though not to be externally validated by the views and the likes. Yeah. You kind of go, and if you're proud of what you do, maybe you don't want negative validation, i.e. either no one cares or it gets a negative response.
Yeah.
And that fear might present itself as my music will do the talking. And you're actually like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not me. Maybe I'm not sure, but it's certainly, I found it's a way to get in where you don't have to go through the usual channels anymore. Yeah. There are ways to get there.